I'd like to talk to you about a little game that I really like. It's called Shingen the Ruler. It's a Nintendo video game. It was on the old 8-bit system. And one of the reasons I liked it so much is because, it's like a haiku. A lot of people say 8 bits, that's nothing in terms of computer power, but, it's interesting because when you have less, you have to be more efficient. And so you strip away everything that's not essential. And, it's like doing a haiku poem. It teaches you that, reducing things to their very essence. And this game really did that. Let me tell you a little bit about the game. In the game, it takes place in 1545, and that was the age of the wars in Japan, where the military dynamo broke down, and you basically had a bunch of dukes. The higher order broke down, and you basically had a bunch of dukes running their own little territories. So each of them was trying to fight out from where they were at and establish more power for themselves, and it was a real mess for a while until people like Shingen Takeda began to unify the country. He unified central Japan. He was later defeated by another warlord, but that doesn't happen in this game. So it can happen if he doesn't. If you don't play the game properly, you will be defeated, or you will just fight to a standstill till you die of old age. So the basic premise is you start off with Shingen Takeda's army. You're in central Japan, and you've got a little piece of territory. You've got a small army, and you basically have to defeat larger armies than yourself. And one of the reasons this is such a great game is because you're not fixed in to the historical reality of what happened. They just start you at a certain timeline, and then whatever happens from that point happens. You're not tied into certain battles at certain times like when you play most video games. The other thing that's neat about it is not only do you control the military aspect of the game where you're fighting battles, but you're also control the political aspect of the game as well. You're raising taxes, you're enlisting men, you're controlling welfare of the people. You can raise the taxes or lower the taxes. You can gain money from gold mines. And you got a whole host of problems. Like the weather might be lousy when you're trying to march troops from one place to another. And that might lead you to losing a battle, actually. That's happened to me in the game. So you can form alliances if you wish with other warlords. You can do that to buy time. I personally didn't like doing that because I had to spend money to form these alliances, and I'd rather just spend that money on buying more troops, men, and equipment, and then just defeating them militarily. So the basic soldiers you can choose between are like headquarters. Those guys are the samurais. They're the most expensive, but they're also the toughest in close quarter combat. And headquarters troops. The next highest is the next thing you can buy is. The most expensive is the headquarters, the samurais. The next most expensive is either the cavalry soldiers or the riflemen. Usually the cavalry is more expensive than riflemen. Cavalry move very fast, they strike very hard, and they're very good at hand-to-hand close quarter combat. The riflemen I like to buy in mass numbers so I can build up a lot of firepower. And what I would do is I would buy the riflemen, and they have like bits of memory, so the most you can have for riflemen is 255, and that's true for cavalry, archers, infantry, any of them. So what I would do and you can break them up into 2 different units. What I typically do is break the riflemen into one unit of 1 and another unit of 254 riflemen. And So when those 254 hit an enemy position, you can pretty much, like a cavalry troops charging you or lancers charging you, you can pretty much wipe them out with one blow, or you'll be pretty close to wiping them out with one blow. And so you have basically, like I said, headquarters, which is like samurai soldiers. Then you have cavalry, which is guys on horseback. And then you have riflemen and archers. Riflemen have a lot more punch power than archers, and they got a lot more range. So I prefer to spend my money on riflemen. I usually didn't spend any money on archers. As far as lancers go, I would buy a lot of lancers for this game, and in order to get lancers or riflemen or any of these guys, first you have to recruit. You have to enlist troops, and that's basically the peasants or the infantry. So you got So like I said, top is headquarters. Next is riflemen. Then cavalry. Then archers, then lancers, and then just the infantry, regular foot soldiers. But you turn the infantry into you have to have a lot of them, and then you have to have enough men to like if you want to raise 255 riflemen, you need 255 infantry to do that. Even if you've got enough money to buy enough rifles, you need both at the same time. So one of the tricks with that game is to spend a lot of money on welfare in certain territories, make yourself popular with the local people, and then hit the enlist button and enlist as many men as you possibly can, and start to build up your riflemen and your lancers. Usually what I would do is I'd just build up the riflemen and lancers, and I wouldn't really mess with the archers or the headquarters usually, or the cavalry. Even though cavalry is a very strong weapon, I just wouldn't. Usually I found I could win all the battles I needed by maxing out my riflemen and then maxing out my lancers. You know, it's like what Vladimir Lenin said about military affairs. Quantity has a quality all its own, and that was a Russian tactic that you get a second or third rate weapon system that you can mass produce cheaply and quickly, but you get it in large enough numbers and hit the enemy in mass with that, and you can overwhelm them with the mass of that force. And that's why I would keep buying more and more lancers, so when I'd lose lancers I could quickly replace them and continue up the momentum of the attack. And another thing I liked about this game is you could use terrain to your advantage, and you could use fortifications to your advantage. There are a lot of forts in this. There are walls that soldiers will erect in the field for protection, fences basically, and that they can fire from relative safety from behind. So the thing that I found the best thing to do in this game is to move forward. I'd move forward like you can break the infantry up into 3 units. And typically what I'd do is I'd break them up into 3 units of one guy, and I'd move them forward in front of everyone else and use them as bait to lure out the enemy. And when they rush those guys and attack them, that's a turn for them, and then I'd hit them with my riflemen and then my archers, and then I'd rush forward my lancers and finish them off with the lancers. And but one of the things you can do, you can use hills to your advantage. You can use rivers and streams and lakes to your advantage. You can set up on the other side of a pond, and they can't move through a stream or a river or a pond as fast as they can through open ground. So what I would do is I'd set up on the other side of that and let them come into that area, and I'd have my guys within range of them once they get in the pond, and then I'd hammer them with my riflemen, and a lot of times I could finish them off in the water before they even got out of it. So the other tactic to remember is also there are wooded areas where you can't use riflemen and archers in for their projectile weapons. They can engage in hand-to-hand combat, but not as They can't, but they're not very good at it, you know. So you're best if you're in a position where you've got woods and you can go into them, and you got the enemy's got like a lot more riflemen and archers and stuff like that. You got plenty of lancers. Just, you know, put your lancers in the woods ahead of everyone and let them close with the enemy, and the lancers will just squash them. And that's a tactic I used a lot. If you're attacking a castle, the best thing to do is send forward like a few infantry, and also I would break my lancers up a lot of times into, you can break them into 2 units. I would make 1 lancer 1 unit and 254 lancers the other unit. I'd send that lancer forward with the infantry to take a few bullets and arrows and then send the other lancers in. But with the lancers in front of your riflemen, your riflemen are relatively safe because they'll close with the lancers before they close with them, and they can fire bullets at who's ever trying to close with your lancers to weaken them. So when you attack a fort, send in a few infantry first, your lancers second, with your riflemen right behind your lancers to protect them. So one of the things that was fun about this game was that you could engage in scorched earth policy, like what Sherman did. Basically, to win this game, I combined together several tactics. I combined Sherman's scorched earth policy combined with Russian tactics of massive firepower. And what Sherman did in the South was he would go into an area, he would grab everything of any economic value to him, all the food that he could, money, any cannons, equipment he could, grab everything that was of value to him and destroy whatever wasn't of value to him, like burn down their farms and houses and barns and stuff like that. And in doing that, he's supplying himself off the land while denying the enemy the use of the resources of that land later. So that was a very effective tactic Sherman engaged in. It works also very well in this game. If you go into an area and you hit taxes at 100%, and then you take all the wealth of that area out of there, you take all the rice out of there, which is called product in the game, and you take out all the money. If there's no food in there, no product, and the enemy invades in there, then they're stuck in that territory and they can't march out of it. It's better than having an army defending your flanks. So what I would do is I would hit taxes at 100%, take everything of value out of there, move it to another territory, use it to build up my army, and then once my army's built up and they're stuck in that territory at my leisure, I would swing back and crush them in that territory that they occupied and were stuck in. When you start off this game, the rank of the enemy, the skill level of their soldiers is much higher than your own, but if you keep fighting one battle after another, your skill level rises up very quickly, particularly if you're winning battle after battle. And what I would do in Shingen the Ruler is I would head to the territory that's actually west of myself, and I would invade that territory. I have 2 territories. I would combine all the soldiers from both territories and invade that territory and take that. And I could do it in one turn once I combine together all my troops. And then I'd take that territory and then I'd head straight north, because a lot of those territories are fairly weak. And if you got all your troops together, you can do that. I'd leave just a handful of like headquarters behind, and a few infantry and a little money, and start building up my riflemen and my lancers as I'm moving forward. And what I could do is I could just take one enemy territory after another each turn, which is like a month. Each month you can invade a new territory. Okay, ways to win this game. The conventional blitzkrieg is one way to win. It's a very aggressive form of warfare. Like I said, you get your lancers and your infantry out front, get your riflemen behind them, lure them out into the open, hammer them with the riflemen, then move the lancers up to finish them off. And when you first you have to finish them in the field, and then you have to go to their castle and defeat them there. But it's the same basic tactics. Send the infantry forward first, lancers behind them, and riflemen right behind the lancers. And you'll pretty much, as long as you've got enough riflemen and enough lancers, you can probably pretty much defeat them each time. But if you do start taking too heavy a losses, it's good to hit the flee button, the retreat button. Things start going badly for you before you end up getting really hammered, because next turn you can regroup and hit them again. And sometimes for your stronger opponents, I would keep going in and hit them several times and keep weakening like their cavalry and their archers and their lancers and their infantry until they were weak enough to where it might take me a couple months of fighting them in the field before I was strong enough, where I'd weakened them enough to where I was strong enough, they were weak enough to where I could attack their castle and take that too. So, but if the battle starts going badly, it's good to hit that retreat button and get the hell out of there. And another good tactic is there's a couple territories that you got to make sure that you don't plunder for the taxes, and just keep putting money into those territories and spending money on welfare so you can get more recruits. And then you can start in those safe territories that are in the rear. You can start building up the number of recruits, and then buying more lancers and riflemen. But be willing to move your infantry and your money to different territories, because from the merchants that you have to buy stuff from, sometimes you can get a better deal in one territory than you can in another. So it's good to shop around, consumers, fellow warlords. You know, what can we learn? But some of the lessons that we can learn from this game. This is a zero-sum game. There can only be one winner, and if you don't win this game, you get either wiped out or you end up just stuck in the territories that you're stuck in, and your enemies get strong enough to where you can't take them out, but you can be strong enough to where they can't take you out either. So you don't want to fight it to a stalemate, you want to fight it to a victory. Another thing you learn from this game is the most expensive army is the second best one. But if you ever get a chance to play this game, it really is a lot of fun, and I would highly recommend it to learn about doing things politically and militarily. It's one of the few games where it combines both together.